Some of you have been with me at these kinds of meetings for a very long time. I served on the Republican State Committee for a very long time, and I won't even say who you are because you don't want to admit that you're that old. But we've been very blessed to have a commitment of Republicans in Massachusetts that stays through thick and thin and works very hard to make sure that Republicans are viable every time they run. And it's very important that we do that, so I compliment you. Jody, I thank you for the leadership that you provided for so long for the party and what you continue to do. And Ron Kaufman is one spectacular Republican National Committee man, and he's not only respected across the country but around the world for the work that he does on behalf of the good causes that Republicans support and believe in. You're all looking at me and wondering why I'm back from Washington, D.C. area to come to a Republican State Committee meeting. Well, first of all, you know how passionate I am about this state. Massachusetts is my home, and it has been my home even during the whole time I was away. I am passionate about the Republican Party, but even more than that, I'm passionate about the people of Massachusetts. And I know that Republicans don't get to pick winners. Democrats don't get to pick winners. Voters get to pick winners, and they include a lot of people that aren't Republicans nor Democrats. I think it's wrong when politics ends up being perceived as either red or blue, or Republican or Democrat. I like it better when it's centered around principles, and we stand for something. We have principles. More than any other state, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts understands what it means to be here when democracy started in this continent. The U.S. Constitution is really kind of based after the Massachusetts Constitution. And that U.S. Constitution is a phenomenal invitation. That's what it is. It says that the government is our government, and it invites us to participate in it. It doesn't even obligate us to participate. It invites us to participate. And there is a spectacular invitation that has been sent to the people in Massachusetts. And that's an invitation to fill a vacancy in the United States Senate. Invitations don't come from our Constitution like that very often. But it is a very important invitation. And I encourage everyone to look at the invitation. Massachusetts voters deserve an opportunity to look at that invitation and to see who else looks at it and who might accept a challenge to be able to represent them in the United States Senate. But the invitation is so important that we shouldn't allow a presumption as to who will accept the invitation or be there to take the oath of office afterwards. It's no one person's seat. It doesn't belong to a family. It doesn't belong to a party. There is no one who carries my label who has greater respect for the person who held that seat for such a long time. I didn't agree with him. I fought with him on a lot of issues, but he and I worked well together. We were very candid in our relationship. He would tell me if he could be with me, and he would tell me when he couldn't be. And there were times when we worked very well together, and there were times when we rubbed against each other pretty hard and caused some bruises. And Senator Kennedy certainly did serve this Commonwealth for a long time. And he served with unbelievable distinction. And he really does deserve the highest recognition and to be in that Senate Hall of Fame. But that's yesterday. Tomorrow is important. And in order to be ready for tomorrow, we have to recognize what we need today. There are challenges. There are tremendous challenges around this country. There are phenomenal challenges in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Those challenges cannot be met if we have a one-party mindset, if we are too parochial in our thinking, if we don't do what Massachusetts is known for, picking the best and the brightest to represent us. It had been a phenomenal desire for me to be able to stand before you and tell you that I am running for the United States Senate. But I have run for statewide office in Massachusetts, and many of you supported me. It was a long time ago, and the challenges of participating in a statewide campaign are enormous. Charlie Baker alluded to them, and I am so grateful that Charlie Baker has made a commitment to share his life with you and the voters of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for the next year and a half, or year and 3 months, so that he can earn their respect and their vote to lead us during difficult times. But because I know what it means to run statewide, I understand that the decisions to run are not political. Politics informs it. Passion drives it. But it's the personal ramifications that make the decision. I'm very blessed to have met my wife in the 5th grade in Holbrook, Massachusetts. She and I have been partners for a very long time. We've been married for 42 years. We have 3 wonderful children. We have 5 spectacular grandchildren. And my wife has accepted a calling that she could not refuse. She's a minister. She's an ordained Methodist minister, and she was assigned a brand new church on July 1st of this year in McLean, Virginia, called Chesterbrook United Methodist Church. It's a church that needs help, and they found the perfect person to help that church in my wife. And I am committed to helping her answer her call and bring people to a better understanding of what is right and what is wrong, and to find help. Because of her work and my love for her, I know that this decision will impact her as much as it would impact me. So I'm asking for your understanding. I would like very much to run for the United States Senate. I truly have not made up my mind that it's the right thing to do, but I promise you that I will give all of the due diligence that is necessary for me to make up my mind in the very near future. I recognize that my indecision may impact other people's decisions or frustrate their lives. That is not my intent. I read the newspapers, I answer the emails, listen to the concerns, pay attention to radio talk show, and I know the names of people who are seeking or would like to be able to seek an opportunity to represent us in the United States Senate. Republicans and Democrats. Now, I haven't heard of any Democrat that said they're waiting to find out what Andy Carter's doing. And no Republican should worry about what Andy Carter's doing, because the invitation is for all, and it's unconditional. So I respect the challenges that are being considered by some pretty phenomenal leaders that we have in our party. Michael Sullivan, who gave tremendous service to the legislature in Massachusetts, and then as U.S. Attorney, and then as the acting head of the ATF in Washington, D.C. Kerry Healy, you know of her great service, not only as Lieutenant Governor, but as the standard bearer for our party. But there's someone else whose name is mentioned, whose qualities deserve recognition, and who is right to consider, and that's Scott Brown. So, I ask for your understanding, I ask for your prayers as I make a tough decision, but I would ask you not to interfere with the tough decisions that other people have to make. And I'll say this. The horizon for Massachusetts has always been much further away than our boundaries. Leadership that has come from Massachusetts has changed the world. Massachusetts is not just a state in the Union. It frequently helped to define the state of the Union. And that should always be the case. We have a great legacy in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We've got a great legacy of Republican leadership out of Massachusetts. Let's not forget the contributions that Republicans make, and let's hope that we can work together, not by talking to each other, but by talking to others about what it means for principled leadership to be in elective office. And with that, I say thank you. I promise a decision as soon as I can possibly make it, recognizing a reality. Massachusetts has a law that says if you want to run for office and you want to put your name on the ballot, you have to get nomination signatures. To get your name on the ballot for a statewide office, you need 10,000 valid signatures. And you must file them under the current timeline by October 20th if you want to compete for an open Senate seat, with a primary in December 8th and a general election on January 19th. It is a Herculean effort to collect 10,000 signatures, which means you really have to collect 20,000 signatures in order to have confidence that the people who signed were who they said they were and were qualified to nominate you for office. Given that reality, I will make my decision very quickly. I mentioned my wife, I mentioned my family, and I mentioned the challenges of running for office. Now I'd like to remind you of something that too many of us tend to forget. This is a week where we reflect on a day that changed America and changed the world. It certainly changed me. This Friday is September 11th. It was September 11th, 2001 that was a spectacular day. In fact, all across the lower 48, it was a perfect day. But a plane took off from Portland, Maine, and landed at Logan Airport, and then took off from Logan Airport and hit a tower at the World Trade Center in New York City. And then another plane hit the other tower. And the only reason I'm remembered as a chief of staff to the President of the United States is because of one picture that shows me whispering in his ear on the morning of September 11th that a second plane hit the second tower. America is under attack. This Friday, I will be in solemn gratitude for the sacrifices that were made by rescuers, in grateful memory of the lives that were sacrificed with no invitation. And I would ask you to do the same. So my decision will not come before September 11th. That will be a solemn day for me. It'll be a day where you should reflect. On September 12th, most of us said we would never ever forget September 11th, 2001. But time has caused many of us not to remember what it really was like, and the challenges that a president had to address, and a burden that a country had to carry. I will never forget. So Friday, September 11th, I will reflect on that day, and I ask you to do so as well. I'll leave you with this. The Republican Party is an optimistic party. In fact, we are so optimistic, we're optimistic when we have no reason to be. We are filled with reasons to be optimistic today, because it's the principles that we stand on that are now demanded by the American public. And they're certainly demanded by the people who live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Fiscal discipline, prudence, respect, opportunities to work to address real needs, but a hope that we won't have to address everyone's wants. Instead, we want to create the opportunity for risk for people to work for those wants. Massachusetts has had a history of doing that. That's why we are the most innovative. That's why we have been the economic engine for this country over many, many decades. And we want to get back to that point. So I leave you with optimism and respect. And I also leave you, hopefully, with an applause for a state senator that makes a big difference for you, and that's Scott Brown.